Story time. Do I think I'm a guru? No. Do I know I'm gifted? Yes. One of the most important elements of going into the journey of spiritual entrepreneurship is not negating your gifts. When I tell you there are going to be a ton of people, a ton of energies, a ton of obstacles that go against everything that you believe in, you're gonna have to be prepared to create that shell so that you're not falling apart every time someone disagrees with your beliefs. Because at the end of the day, it's all a belief system. What you believe, what someone else believes, how we interact and engage with the world, it's just our belief system. And so on this journey of spirituality, I had to learn a long time ago that everyone's not going to agree with me. Everyone's not going to see things the way I see them, even if I look at it in a really naive, superficial, or hippy-dippy way. Even if I look at it in the most beautiful aspect, there's always going to be somebody that's like, get out of here with that gooey stuff, that weird stuff, right? There's always that person who's a little bit of a cynic. And believe me, I used to be a cynic myself. I grew up only in a religion that literally told us these are the rules. If you go against these rules, you're gonna go to hell, right? We all know what religion that is. And there's many of them, but you know which one I'm talking about. And so for me, my biggest come up was realizing that even in my own family system, I had to learn how to stand alone. Not that my family was against me so much when it came to my beliefs, because a lot of people in my family, we think and speak the same way, especially when it comes to believing in something greater than self. But where I differed was my experience. Me having an individual experience, like everyone, we all have individual experiences. So my experience, again, growing up in the Midwest as a young boy who's gay, it was never going to be anybody that told me how to be. Everyone was fearful of it. People are still fearful of it. And so I laugh because everyone was so concerned about don't grow up to be gay, don't be all this kind of stuff. But yet, everything in my life told me to be straight, and I wasn't straight. So the belief system of how I'm supposed to act, talk, none of that didn't change me. That didn't just make me feel any sort of way about who I was attracted to and how I was going to pursue my life. It just made me feel like I should close myself off more and not share my beliefs with people. And so a lot of that, again, is going to brew self-hatred. It's going to brew denial, right? You don't believe in anything because everyone around you is telling you what you feel is wrong. And so that was my first check-in system of I have to stand strong in my own belief system, regardless of what other people tell me. I knew deep down in my heart for myself, I was not a bad person. That's where I had to start as a child. I remember, this is what people do to children. So all those people out there are gonna say, this is not the natural way, that's fine. Remember, science is just a very sterile word that means magic. It is spirituality wrapped in a bundle and told you that this is the logical truth because humans reinterpreted literally the living, breathing, magical environment around us. We literally don't know how things work to this day. And we're putting stuff, and we only think the only way to figure out how it works is to kill it, chop it up, and put it under a microscope. That will show you the shell, but that still is not the essence of whatever that living thing is, whatever that system of spirituality is. So when we can literally step away from this belief system of it only is one way, the healing journey will begin, and it will take you into your further gifts to then become an entrepreneur, a business owner, however you implement it into your financial life. Because one thing that I noticed in the spiritual world, people run away from finances, and I don't know why. Myself included, when I thought that, it would just be so nice to not have to worry about working or worry about money and just live off the earth and just wake up every day in the nature and it's beautiful. Yes, that is beautiful, but you still have to do labor. People don't talk about that. One of the journeys that I went on, let's fast forward, I forget how old I was, but I ended up in a small town in the Midwest. I won't say where, just because I don't want to put people on blast. But it was the most magical town I've ever been to, in my opinion. I mean, everyone there believed in spirituality, consciousness, the collective conscious, just self-identity, talking about Reiki and religion and tarot and everything all together. It was beautiful. And I was just like a kid in Candyland, like, oh my God. And I'm just walking around like thinking all these people are like me, and I'm just telling people what I see and visions. Because for me, I always talk about my gifts. I see exactly what people are feeling, but it's not in a way that I know their story. I just pick up on the imprints, the patterns. Now, sometimes a story will come through of information that I don't know how I know it. And I will ask a simple question, just like you see with Tyler, the medium, and all those, or Teresa, as you walk up, is your mother this, is your dad this? And I'll be telling people like, so there's an energy talking to me and this and that, and I would tell people this, and people would look at me like I was crazy, and they'd be like, who told you that? How do you know that? And I'm like, my visions told me. And people would look at me like, your visions, like, well, what is wrong with you? What does that mean? And so I'm sitting here thinking like, this is normal because everyone around me is just talking about prayer and meditation and consciousness, but then I forgot. There's going to be many of people who, again, speak your language, but do not have your discipline of practice. They do not have your gifts. There's going to be many of people who know how to wear the robe and the uniform, but they do not actually care about the end result or the byproduct of having that gift. You understand? It's the same thing when we talk about police officers and other stuff. Everybody who puts on a uniform is not a good person. Okay? So even if they have a call to duty or an oath to be a good person, people lie all the time. And so it is about your own discernment and awareness of who you're trying to represent in this world when it comes to your belief system and your gifts. Now, I will tie this into entrepreneurship as I go along, but the whole point of Storytime is to give Storytime. So I moved to this town, literally just fresh. I don't even know where I was coming from. Where's the last place before I moved to this town? I think I was in Oregon or somewhere. I think somewhere on the West Coast, and I was coming back to the Midwest. I talked about this before. So I landed in this town. Just got out of a relationship. Listen, one thing you're gonna learn about me is I'm a dater. I date, it is what it is. This is a part of how my journey taught me how to learn who I am and what I've gone through, and like really testing my beliefs, because I know in my past life, I was such a lover boy, lover girl, whatever, that I would give everything up for this person, all my identity for these people. And I literally grew up watching that. So that is also part of just natural imprinting that came along in my household. So one of the things that, again, I started to recognize was that, yeah, I will be that person who takes that leap of faith. If I'm going somewhere, I meet somebody and they're like, let's go travel across the world. Okay, if I have the means to do so, I'm gonna do it because it's an experience. Same thing with like if someone's like, hey, let's get to know each other. I like you. Okay, why not? Let's see what happens. But then I would cut off every single other person in my life, and then that's where it would all fall apart. And that was my learning experience. So anyways, this journey of learning that along the way, because I was, I'm still in my later 20s, early 30s, still learning this stuff, because remember, I grew up in, again, a very strict household. So I didn't really live life until I was 21. Like most of us, like most of my life up until 18 was just rules and restrictions. So I didn't know the world. So when I was 20, that was my first time of really exploring life and my own belief system and integrating that into my own belief system. And so that's when like my 20s was my buck wild years. So going into my 30s, that was more of my lessons, learning the lessons of being buck wild. So this person and me broke up. I moved to this small town and I instantly found community. It was a group of people where they were vegans and they believed in spirituality, consciousness, tarot. They're a little witchy, they had their little thing going, which I didn't mind. And there was this big, beautiful house where everyone rented a room and we just lived there and shared food and worked on the backyard, and we had events together, and it just seemed like the most awesome, amazing experience. And don't get me wrong, for the moment, superficially, it was. But then I remember one time, this is when I had my kitten, and I took them to the vet. And this veterinarian, super cool guy, had like a sauna in their backyard, and they did like different retreats and meetings for people and stuff. And we were talking about something, and I just started to go off about just life in general and my beliefs. And he stopped me and was like, protect your energy. And I was like, okay. And I've never had anyone say this to me before, not like this. He's like, protect your energy. He's like, there's a lot of people in this town who are gonna siphon off of you and try to shut you up. And I've never forgotten these words, because at the time it was just over my head, like, okay, sure, whatever. And as time went on, I started to learn what he meant. And so while I was living in this house with these people, again, everybody had their own gifts. And for me, I'm really good at pointing out other people's gifts and coaching them through their gifts. This is literally how my business started, which is why this whole segment is about spiritual entrepreneurship, because I always see the good in people. I always see where they're going, where they're at, what they can be, what they want to be, if they trust the process. I can't take them there, but I can tell them the blueprint. And so for me, that's what one of my first business ventures was, is writing the blueprint for people, saying, okay, well, tell me your story, tell me what you've been through. I listen to what you're good at, what you thrive in, what you enjoy doing. I take that information, and then I basically, like a career counselor, just say, here's what you can do for spiritualists and for artists and for people who are creators and creatives, because at the end of the day, every spiritualist that I ever met is a creative, right? Everybody on their own right is a creative, but most people who believe in spirituality are really expressive into nature and art and culture and music and all of this. And so I would do this. And so everybody in the house, some people were musicians, some people were painters, drawers, artists, others did massage and activism, and again, all amazing people in their own right. But then I remember we needed a new roommate, and we were looking for somebody. And energetically, I was drawn to this one person at this local coffee shop, and I was like, oh, they seem really cool, and I don't know why. And to this day, I don't know why I met this person, but I do feel like it was a past energy in my life where it was telling me, like, just because you feel close to them doesn't mean they need to be a part of your journey. But instead of waiting for the invitation, as a projector I am, I forced it on them. And there was so much resistance around. I mean, from the current situation they're in, with the people they were living with, they weren't getting along with, and they were just like, everybody was against them. And I was being like Captain Saba, trying to help them. And I'm like, no, yeah, come live with us. We're all vegans, everyone's great, you're gonna love it here. And I remember the roommate who was moving out, she told me, be careful with these people. They're kind of fanatics. And I was just like, okay, sure. And again, not paying attention, just going with my heart. Again, there's nothing wrong with following your heart, but this is why discernment is important. I was like, okay, sure, I'm good. No one can, they're not gonna get me. So I move into this house, everything's great. We get this new person to move in. Slowly but surely, it's like this person, not them as their identity, but their energy was like a virus, where they slowly but surely started to infect everyone with their bitterness, their hate, their loneliness, their anger. To this day, I don't dislike this person, but I could see how bad they were hurting, and they took it out on everyone. I mean, down to everyone's rooms were clean and painted and taken care of, and they were having all these crazy requests, like, I need it painted this way, and I need to face this window, and I need this room. And they got somebody else to switch rooms with them and convinced them to leave their room. And they came in and they were like, well, I'm vegan, but I need bone broth and all this stuff. And I'm just like, we're like, okay, well, you can keep a fridge in your room. We have many fridges, so you can if you want to keep dairy or stuff in the fridge, but the main fridge is for vegans. We don't want that in our fridge. This is where the fanatic part kicks in. Because again, I believed in that too, but it was like, it got a little crazy where this person made a big deal out of it, and then everyone else was just like, well, we don't need to share food. And it just started to break apart the community. And it was crazy because this was my first interaction with someone who was basically coming in to be a disturber, be a dismantler. And so along this journey, I was still trying to build my business and work with other people to network, and we were trying to create a community of other business-minded people where, even though we believe in spirituality and consciousness and being artists, you still should be able to be monetized off of your gifts, right? I think a lot of people forget, they're like, oh, if it's really a gift, it should be free. Absolutely not. It's my gift, it's free to me. I can give it to you freely if I choose to, but it is not yours to own just because it comes to me naturally. And I think that people need to remember artists deserve to be paid. Like everything in this world, from clothes to music to food, is all art. You're paying for that. So I know people don't like to hear that, but get over it. Like, it is what it is. Like, even fixing a car is an art form. You pay to get that done. So why would you not pay somebody to hear them speak, or pay for somebody's artwork who did all this? They're basically a vessel interpreting a vision into something tangible. That deserves to be billed, right? And so I'm trying to teach this to this group of people, and for some reason, they just started to give me resistance, because I was the only one with a day job. Everybody else lived off of their gifts. So they were selling their art, selling their services, massage, all this stuff. You know, some of them had like odd jobs and waiters and this, and I was the only one who worked in corporate. So I had a little bit more money. And so I would always say, like, hey, if you guys are short, I'm willing to offer help. I'm willing to offer more. Like, I don't mind helping. First mistake. Many more mistakes before that, but it was really just the biggest mistake is thinking that trying to give to people who don't have as much and already have lack mindsets, that they're going to be open and willing to hear that. They were not. So as time went on, the division started to get weird, because it was a house full of women, and I'm not saying it's the women's fault, but it was me and another guy who lived there, and they were able to use their dark feminine. Some of them were light feminines, and they did not come against me. They were just naive. And that's the hard part about duality. If you live on the polarized side of light and darkness, you're not going to know how to bridge that. So you have all these light workers living in their light, but they're fragile. And then you have somebody who's living in their darkness, and they're too hard. And so the one person that I convinced to move in was super in their masculine energy, very hard, very sad. You know, they were going through some stuff, and it's not their fault, but they were just messed up a little bit, and emotionally and energetically. And so they came in and they started to siphon off of this light energy of these other females. They knew how to do the girl talk and act all like, oh my gosh, and tears on command, stuff like that, which was kind of like, that is so manipulative. You know, it's abusive actually, but I just let it go, because I was like, they all seem like they need a mother figure. If that's what they want to represent, let them. The main person who ran the house, they were off doing activism work, so they were not there. And that's who their real mother was, right? That's who represented their matriarch. So this other one, she came in as a false matriarch, and she was using manipulative tactics to get them to turn against the boys. And it's ridiculous, but it does exist and it does happen. And so as we were hanging out, there was just one time where I had all the bills in my name, because I was the oldest and I knew how to run a house. I've done it before. So I was like, all right, just pay me the money for the bills and, you know, for electric and all this. And I would tell them when it was due. Do you know that they turned to me like, well, why do we have to pay you and I don't have the money right now? And I'm like, don't you want electricity? Don't you need water? Like, I was like, you have to keep the house clean. You have to keep the bills ready. You have to pay rent. And like, they were just not trying to do that. Like, some of them were teenagers. And again, I was in my early 20s, 30s. So I was more like the father of the house. And I forget that in spiritual community, there are so many broken souls who don't have genuine masculine energy, who do not know their father or have issues with their father. That is the first thing I learned about spirituality, because spirituality is a very feminine practice. I don't mean it's feminine as if like men can't be involved, but it's very much about your nurturing aspects, letting your heart be open, giving without expectation. So me being like, no, these are the deadlines, these are the rules, these are the money, that part of me came out from my family, which again, I am not upset about, but I recognize like, wow, okay, I can see where I can come off a little strict, but at the end of the day, me being strict about bills that have to be paid is not going to change the fact that if you don't pay your bill, we ain't gonna have electricity, and I'm not about to front money for everybody. So I was okay with helping with food and groceries and adding extra food into the pantry, but I'm not gonna be paying full electric bills for a house. Like, it was a big house, so these bills are not cheap. And so they just kind of started to turn against me, like, and I remember the one who was living in their dark energy, she just goes, "You're not my dad, da, 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 da. I don't know why." And I was just like, I've never said I was your father. I've never tried to be anything other than. I thought we were friends. I thought we were cool. Like, I basically recruited you into the house. So I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, like, are you kidding me right now? And so everybody else, they were like, well, let's have a meeting. Let's have a meeting together. So the girl who was basically the matriarch, she comes back. She was away for like a couple weeks. She comes back, and I don't know what they said to her, but it was really sad because I thought me and her were cool. And she literally took everything they said and was basically put a witch trial on me, which was funny because they all said they were a coven. So they're over here, they turned against me, and they're in their dark energy over here ostracizing me like, well, what did you say? Well, you don't have the talking stick. So yeah, we did our talking stone. And they were like, you can't, and I let them say whatever they wanted to say to me about me. And when I got my chance to talk, I was like, at the end of the day, I get it, but we have to pay the bills. Like, we have to be on time with it. This is not something that's not negotiable. And so the guy, I'm thinking he's on my side because I'm talking to him, he turns on me too, and he's like, yeah, sometimes, bro, it just feels like it's your way or the highway, this and that. And I'm just kind of like, I barely talk to you guys. I barely say anything. Like, we hung out and stuff, but because they were younger than me, I didn't really hang out with them on that intimate level like they did. Like, they like to build big pillows and lay on top of each other and cuddle sessions and all that stuff. That's cute. I'm a grown man. I'm not doing that with a bunch of young girls. I'm not stupid, okay? Especially not in the middle of the Midwest. That ain't happening. But I was smart enough to say, listen, I can be a protector, I can be a mentor. That's what I'm here for. And I was doing different business ventures with them. Like, the guy who turned on me, I taught him how to make invoices. Like, he was out here selling his work, but he didn't have proper invoices in place. And I asked him, he helped me design some logos and stuff. And I was just like, thank you, and it was great. But after a week or so, his survival mechanism kicked in, and he started to be like, hey, you gonna pay me this week? Hey, you gonna pay me this week? And I'm like, we never had a payment plan in place. I told you that I would pay you when I got paid, which is every 2 weeks. So if you're okay with that, that's fine. But if not, then I need you to create an invoice so that I can pay you appropriately and that you stop handling me this way, because this is, again, a business transaction. And so the whole point of the story was, this house was like so into, they used their gifts to go against themselves, where it was like I was trying to help them build structure and they did not want that structure. And so I ended up moving out, and I'm like, I'm not living with none of y'all. That's fine. I was like, literally, I found a new place the next week, moved out, did what I had to do, and basically that house degraded. Everyone had to move out, everyone had to find a new place to live. I'm not saying that made me happy, but each and every one of them came back to me and was like, you were right about that person. They were so manipulative. You were right, you were right, you were right. And it was like, it wasn't that I was trying to be right, it was that you all were trying to take my gift from me. I told you what I saw. I tried to give you what I knew, and instead of just using a level of discernment, you went with your victim mentality and ran with it. Because everything about spirituality is remembering we're not the victim. Things happen to us, to this physical flesh. Things have happened to our souls from the soul remembrance. But we still have a choice to participate. I'm not saying every aspect you're participating in. The participation comes back to, how do you take care of yourself? Even in the most dire situations, of the most saddest situations, like if you're being attacked or something. After the attack is over, if you survive, how do you get out of that situation? How do you get away from that energy? You don't stay. You don't keep coming back to it and hoping that it changes, right? If there's a situation again where you end up somewhere that you don't want to be, I don't blame anybody. I will never blame a victim for being attacked. But it is a lesson after that. If God willing, you survive, because unfortunately some people don't survive. If you survive, that is a lesson to say, what do I do next? Because I had the opportunity to stay there and keep living with these people. And I remember at one point, after this so-called meeting we had, I let somebody, I was just closed off in my room until I had to move out. I was not participating. They were all being fake and phony and having dinners together, and I would come downstairs and they'd be the fakest laughs, and I'm just like, I see right through y'all. But whatever, do you, I don't care. And I remember just sitting in my room, and this is when I just had friends over sometimes, and one of the friends came over. We were just sitting in my room talking, and one of the girls, she's like, can I come in and hang out with you guys? I'm like, sure. Me and him were kicking it, talking, listening to music, talking about whatever. And at one point she goes, can't you just be quiet and just chill? And I looked at her and I'm like, This is my room. You do not have to be in here. You can stay or go if you want to, but if I want to talk, I'm going to talk. And that was one of the first moments where I was like, there's something energetically in them where they want me to be quiet. They want me to not use my gift. And I'm just like, you are not about to shut me up or shut me down. That's not happening. That's just not happening. So that was just more gasoline on the fire. I was like, I'm so happy I'm leaving this house. I'm so happy. So I ended up moving to another place. Great experience. Beautiful garden apartment. Literally, it was surrounded by trees and plants and gardens. I lived with a guy who was a masseuse. He was awesome, played music. It was great. Life was beautiful. But what I learned through all of that was, instead of sulking and being sad and being mad and being revengeful or talking down on these people, it helped me build my business. When I tell you during that time, that was my first opportunity where I started to listen to my visions and listen to my voice, and I was like, I have a gift. It's meant to be shared, because if this many people went against me, but I was still right, I need to trust that. And so because of that, I was like, I'm gonna start making videos. And that's when I first started doing what I went on Instagram, because I used to be on Instagram, I'm not on there anymore. I just started making quotes. I started posting quotes on Facebook first, and then I moved over from Facebook to Instagram, because weirdly so, Facebook is just, I don't know, it's like an archive of just a relic of people who just never move on. I'm not saying people who use it are that, but the space feels like a relic. And I'm just like, it feels too small. I need to venture out. And this is before Instagram was a part of Facebook. So I got on Instagram, I started posting my quotes. And then one day I was just like, I need to post a video. And I was like, what are people gonna think? What are they gonna feel? And I used all of that energy from that house to be like, who cares what they think and feel? Every time that you spoke, you were right. And I'm not saying that I need to be right. I'm saying I was right about my instincts. That's where I'm gonna talk mad crap and be very confident. I don't just talk just to hear myself. And I think a lot of people think that about me, but I talk because things come through me that I feel needs to be heard. I used to hold it all in, and that didn't serve me. That didn't do any good for me. But when I spoke, and then I would have people come back, sometimes, not even months or weeks later, but years later, like, you said this thing to me and it changed my entire life. That to me feels so good. It's a level of acceptance and validation that even though we say we don't need it, it feels good to get it. And I don't get drunk off of that. I definitely don't run around needing it. But when I hear that someone says, you help guide me through one of the hardest parts of my life, that's the part of the light that I know I represent. I've always said that I am simply a lighthouse. I will sit there and be the light that I need to be. I do not go out and seek darkness. Darkness just surrounds me, and those who seek the light will come to me. That's what I believe, and that's what I do. And so I based a lot of my work in the beginning off of trauma work and consciousness and just really deep, dark stuff, because I myself was still in the darkness and still living out some of my old habits of over drinking, over partying, over sexualization, because it's part of the process of learning who you are. Again, there's nothing wrong with expressing your body and being intimate, but if your whole identity is just this act, then yeah, that's a problem. I don't care what anyone says. If you want to be a martyr for the cause, do so. But what I'm saying is, there becomes a level of giving that you're like, I need to take back and give to myself, which meant listening to how I wanted to express my gifts, listening to how my body wanted to be fed, listening to how my emotions needed to be heard, right? And so my first videos, if you guys go back, it's EQ with JAH, or our JAH archives. I think it's down. You can follow it down in the links of videos I have. And you'll see my very first video. I was just happy-go-lucky and shiny. I think I was in a rainbow shirt. And I was just giving my opinion, just sharing my story. And at one point in my journey, I started to get discouraged, and I was just like looking at the numbers, and I started to be like everyone else. You see, there's no views, no one's looking. And I heard a vision, or I heard a voice that say, just like Field of Dreams, and I will never forget it. It's like, if you build it, they will come. If you build it, they will come. Whatever that meant, however it came, I was fine with it. And I knew that it was gonna be years, because for some reason, I think most Aquariuses get this. It's like our souls pick this time to be blessed later. It's either your two Aquariuses, either you get everything at once, the young version, and we kind of go through a lot of hardships at once, and then we get all the beauty at front, but then we're going through the beauty and the hardships at the same time. Or it's prolonged and we get all the hardships at the beginning, so then we can get all the good stuff at the end. And for some reason, I always knew that's the timeline I'm on, where it's like, I know when I'm older, I'm gonna have the most easiest, softest life. But for some reason right now, I am in the root of it, the thick of it, the everything, just the growing pains, literally. And so I was just like, okay, don't be discouraged. And during this time, I made other friends, but I remember this one friend, like, I was like, yeah, I'm doing YouTubes and stuff. And they were like, oh, I tried it. I made like 3 videos and I got no views and no one paid attention. Yeah, it's a waste of time. And to me, I was just like, okay, well, that's weird. That's discouraging, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep trying, you know? And I kept building my Instagram and building my following and doing what I wanted to do. And I remember at one point I decided again, like I said, I did my first, well, the book came later after I moved from the town. Right when I was at the town, I started to write my first book. And again, I told you, like, I know that, again, it's not meant for everyone. The first book was not an easy read. I'm being completely honest. Like you said, as an artist, I don't love anything that I did in the beginning. It was all crap. That's just my honest truth. But it also was a test for me to say, who cares? You can go back and edit. You can go back and fix it. That was the biggest flex I learned of being a spiritual entrepreneur. Create all the inventory you want. It's teaching you how to build your discipline and your gifts so that whatever you make later will be stronger, better, so on and so forth. So when I did the book and stuff, a few people supported me, but other people kind of just was like, okay, whatever, like, it is what it is. And I was just like, okay. That again drove me deeper into not proving them wrong, just trusting my gift, and I dismissed them. I was like, you're not a part of my life. And this person's like, what happened, why? And I'm just like, we don't need to talk about it. We're no longer friends, I'm moving on. And I ended up leaving this town. I left that town, moved somewhere new, and I started to continuing to build on my business. And so as I built on my business, my content inventory kept building and building and building and building. Anybody can go back now and go look at any of my old pages. I have tons and tons and tons of content. That's for me. I would love it if people checked out my old stuff. And I actually see that now where they say, it's funny that people catch up to you later in life and then they'll catch up to your newer stuff later. Like, my older videos now are getting all the traction. They're getting all the traffic. My newer videos, still building momentum. But until then, my new job my job I currently have, which is in marketing, I didn't even know what traffic meant. I didn't know what an algorithm was. I didn't know what any of this stuff meant. So it was crazy because I was literally working at a temp agency, and this job literally was like a job that they were only hiring for the first time, like just temporarily to help them transition as they were doing a new system. And I remember with the lady at the time who worked in finance, she was like, we've never had a temp, so, you know, you're the first. And I was like, universe, thank you, because I will tell you this, my alignment is on point. My universe, my guides, they are always on point with my energy. We are always aligned, and they always take me directly where I need to go, when I need to go. Like, when I say, when you live and breathe spirituality, you don't have to manifest all the time. You don't have to do spell work all the time. You don't have to chant all the time. It just happens naturally. I'm not saying those aren't great tools, but I'm saying you don't have to try as hard because you're a living, breathing manifestation of your own, the example. So anytime I went through something, I just trusted my gut, and my voice was like, go do this, go there, talk to that person, don't talk to this person, do this, do that. Everything aligned. When I tell you every place I've ever lived, there's a body of water there. And it's not even like I knew it. It would just happen magically. Like, I mean, the place I lived in Minnesota was beautiful. I ended up renting up a room out of a house, and it just looked like a regular house. Walk to the backyard, there's this whole man-made lake with pear trees and apple trees. It is beautiful and gorgeous. When it froze over, they ice skated on it. It was the most whimsical thing ever. I mean, even now, the place I live, bunch of streets and roads. I walk down this random path. There's a huge open reserve, water park reserve, like gorgeous sunsets. San Diego, same thing. It was just always, my spirit guides knew I needed to be near water. So they would always put me somewhere beautiful, always. And it's just always worked out that way. So when it comes to housing and stuff like that, I'm always taken care of. And so I was like, okay, you are supporting me while I figure out this artist thing. And so again, when I got this job, I was just supposed to be a temp momentarily, and then they ended up hiring me in. And I've learned so much at this job. When I say that this job has taught me a lot about myself and about business, it really has taught me how to write copy properly. I wrote my first blog professionally for the company website. That's what got me into doing the blogs on my website. It taught me how to edit videos and short script and stuff like that. And in every one of these things, when I tell you, it was like the school of hard knocks, and it just taught me that, like, okay, well, if you're not disciplined in it, you're gonna have to become disciplined in it somehow. That's where I started to really learn, and I started to learn the legal aspect of it, and the contracts and trademark and all and registry and copyright. And this is how I began to build my business. And so for me, when I tell people, you can build your business any which way you want. You can make content and make content and make art and wait until you blow up and then do the business side. But for me, myself, I felt that it was necessary to, while I'm creating content, tighten up my business side too. Learn about stock exchange, learn about the market, learn about, invoices and all this stuff. Because again, when you do blow up, because that's the part you have to know. You have to know that your art will shine one day, and that when it does, you're prepared. So as far as that goes, and maybe I'll talk about it later, but as far as setting up a business entity, it has been the most rewarding and tiresome process ever. When I tell you there is so much paperwork involved on the back end of making sure that your business is legit and established, it is no joke. And that's why a lot of people say, if you're gonna do it, it is not for the weak of heart. And so that's where I started to realize, like, I went from the trauma work more into the branding aspect, because I realized that every artist is a brand of their own, and they need to know how to present that brand in a way that people know who they are, but also make it authentic to self. And then I also realized there's business owners who own businesses, but they don't know why they don't have the customers that they want. It's like, because you don't know what your brand is. You know that it's a service you provide, but you don't know who you are authentically serving and why you're serving that community. And so this is the part again where I go back to that household where it was teaching me. I knew who I was. I just didn't have the practices yet to put it in place. Until I had to work with opposition and people coming against me and telling me that I was wrong for knowing what I'm saying, and telling them, like, you gotta pay your bills, you gotta be on top of your money too. That's where it took me from my light work into the bridge. Because people have to remember, there is the light and the dark, but you have to live within the bridge. You have to know how to create a bridge that you can cross between the worlds. And so that was my first experience, realizing that I have to know how to, yes, live in spirituality and consciousness. Yes, live in this earthly world that's dark, and which know how to defend myself. Like I tell people, it's more video. I got hands. If I need to throw them, I will. Okay? So I can be kumbaya all day, but if you get in my face, you don't get smacked. I don't play that whole turn the other cheek crap. Whatever, you do you. But for me, I believe in, if you come at me, you're gonna be dealt with. If the situation calls for it. I'm not out here trying to fight everybody. I'm too old for that. But the point of being is, like, you have to know how to be a bridge. You have to know how to live in both worlds. That is the point of duality. That is the point of yin and yang. That is the point of as above, so below, is we are both. We are both light and dark at the same time. And so what that means is, the darkness is the business world. Like, it's a cutthroat world. It's a place where you have to know how to, like, it's just a transaction. People don't care about who you are, what you've been through, what you're going through. They care about getting their service and something fulfilled. The light side of it is, well, here's why I created it, and it's a beautiful creation, and I love the process, and the process is so cathartic. But again, most people don't care that it took you 8 hours. If they don't like how it looks, they're not gonna buy it, right? So it's learning how to live in both worlds without feeling like you're being attacked. You're always going to be attacked, but learning how not to feel attacked is how you survive as a spiritual entrepreneur. Because again, your gifts are your gifts. everyone doesn't want to receive a gift. Everyone doesn't know how to receive a gift. And so it's up to you to realize, like, am I giving this gift because I have an expectation to receive back? Or am I giving this gift because I just want them to have something that they can have later when they need it? And so that's what my business and practice has become about. And so for everyone else who I speak to, you have to know that whatever you're creating, again, may it be tarot reading, may it be fixing cars, whatever it is, you have to have the belief in your gift. And you gotta be cocky about it. You do not have to bend over and be like, I'm sorry, I'm kind of good, or like, I don't know. No, I'm good at what I do. I'm very good at helping people see their vision and put it into an actual, tangible, working system. I'm very good at doing that, and I will never talk myself out of that, because if I believe that, then I wouldn't be here now doing what I'm doing. And no matter what or how it goes, like they say, the audience that you desire will come to you. The one thing that I've learned with learning these different systems and modalities of consciousness is that you have to know what you're doing will call in who you're meant to call in. It's that simple. There are 1,000,000 billion artists doing the same thing. There are 1,000,000 billion scientists, people doing the same thing. But each one of them is bringing something unique to that field. And eventually you have your breakout star who discovers something that everyone else probably would have discovered too eventually, but they just got lucky. It's like gambling. Sometimes it's just your lucky break. It just happens. It's not always going to happen the way that you expect it to, or it's not always going to happen as fast as you want it to. When I tell you I used to listen to different people on YouTube, like YouTube for me was scary for a while, because when TikTok came out, I was on there all the time making TikToks, and I was starting to build a following and get there. And then I got to one point where I was just like, I'm not an influencer. I'm not saying that I can't be influential, but I don't want to be an influencer. I don't want people to follow me to buy what I say buy. No, I wanted to be a teacher, as I am. And I want to be able to just be a voice that represents this demographic of spiritualists and spiritual artists and spiritual business people. And so I've always told people, I am a CEO, I am a business owner. I run the shots and I call the shots. So I don't need to have everyone doing everything I say. I just need to know that they know that I know what I'm saying is right. As far as, okay, he knows what he's talking about. Like, again, when I say right, I don't mean I need to be validated. I'm saying right as like, well, actually, no. I guess it is a level of validation. Like, I don't need it to thrive, to keep going, but I like to know that people understand what I'm saying is correct, or they are comprehending what I'm saying is correct as far as what works for them. So yes, it does help me as a business owner and a spiritualist to hear people say like, yeah, that actually makes sense. Oh my God, yes, that's what I'm going through. And I'm like, oh good, because sometimes when people have to remember, when we're talking, I'm just talking to a phone. Ain't nobody around me. There's no one here. I don't know who's watching this. I don't know who my future audience will be, but I have a future audience. And so thank you guys for watching this long and carrying on with me as I just talk to my phone like a crazy person. But again, it's the knowing, because my gifts and my soul knows that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and I'm doing what I love. No matter what, however I leave this earth, I know that I will leave a legacy, and I know that I've done what I needed to do that makes me happy. And so as again, the pointers and all that, there are a ton of people out there who are gonna give you step-by-step instructions on how to build a business. That's not me. I'm just telling you emotionally, keep going. That's what my whole business is about, emotional intelligence. Keep going, don't stop. I like to motivate, I like to just give people the reassurance, and that's what I'm here for. Everybody remembers that, or everyone needs to remember that again, we're not all here to be the same thing. I always say I'm a bridge keeper, I'm a lighthouse. A bridge keeper just means I'm gonna say, you're almost there. Like when you walking through the darkness and walking through the darkness and walking through the darkness, it feels so isolating. You don't know where you are, how long it's gonna take. So just to come upon a soul in this lonely world that says, you're almost there, you're on the right path. I know that it's doing a lot for people because those people were there for me. And I know all their names and I remember their names. And when I make it, don't worry, baby, I got you. So I just say, go ahead and cross that bridge. On the other side, there are tribe and people waiting for you. There are plenty of people over there who are gonna help you and walk you through every step as long as you know you're on the right path. So I hope this makes sense. As always, I don't know how my stories sound when I'm telling them, but I just know that it's gonna come together in the end. So don't deny your gifts. Don't be afraid to share your gifts. Don't run away from your vision. Stick to your vision no matter how long it takes. It might take a year, it might take 10 years. So what? What are you in the rush for? Where are you going? Until you die or until you pass off this earth, you here. You got nothing but time, so just do it. That's the answer. Just do it, keep going. You got this. Anywho, as always, thank you for joining me along this spiritual journey. Hit the like button, subscribe, jump down in the comments, share your stories, all of the above. I love you, I love you, I love you. Again, spiritual entrepreneurship is for those who trust their gifts. It's for anybody, but it's for those who trust their gifts, have faith in their beliefs, and just keep going. Love ya. Mwah.